Welcome to episode 135 of the Inside Byte. I'm your host, Tim Schaefer. I'm not here with Rudy. This episode is going to be a weird one. So I was waiting for the Xbox news to drop before we did the episode, and this news is not what I was expecting, and I don't think anybody was really expecting, unless you were expecting pretty much not much at all. I'm debating if I was going to release a full episode and start off with this, but since Rudy isn't here, and outside of this Xbox news, there's not that much news that happened in the week. There's some, and we can get into it, but I think it's best we just sort of push the rest of the news till next week, go over this Xbox stuff, and just sort of be done for the week. Instead of dragging out longer than needs to be dragged just to sort of fill time. And let's just keep this episode to what actually took place here. And we don't need to put filler where filler doesn't need to be, you know? So the Xbox news that took place, though, I was expecting it to be a bit more, so we had more to talk on. And since there's not much, it's just going to be me here, and we're just going to go over what they went over here and pretty much be done for the week. So one of my two predictions is right. One of them being they're not going to get out of the console race. They're not going to stop doing hardware. If Xbox ever does stop, I think it will be a lot more natural for the time, and around the same time, PlayStation would also do it. You know, PlayStation is technically a more Japanese-centric company, even though it doesn't seem that way anymore, especially with them saying, for the most part, North America runs things. It's still at its base a Japanese company, and so I think because of that, hardware may last longer, right? Outside of that one reason, you know, it'll probably be another 5 or 10 years, and, you know, we're going to be gaming off of apps on our TV, and I think that is where the future is going to lie there, and having a box will become less and less necessary as years go on. But in terms of this event, there was nothing of we're out of doing consoles. So I was right about that. Where I was greatly wrong is I was also thinking Game Pass was going to other platforms because they've been kind of building that way for years. But I guess this is not where the announcement is. The announcement is pretty much not much at all in terms of how I see things. Xbox has already released games on other platforms in the past, and all they really announced with this is, hey, 4 games are going to other platforms that were Xbox exclusives prior. Those games are also on PC, but they've just been Xbox and PC, but we're now going to release 4 more games on other systems, and they didn't even say what they were. Now, we have way too much evidence of Hi-Fi Rush coming to other platforms, right? Like I said on the last episode, just because the t-shirt stuff that was not even leaked, but seen in source code of there is an Xbox t-shirt, a Switch t-shirt, and a PlayStation t-shirt on various styles representing those platforms. And we see all button prompts of PlayStation. So those 2 things, pretty safe to assume Hi-Fi Rush is one of them. The other 3, everyone's posting around because apparently Tom Warren is saying, hey, it's these 4 games: Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, Pentiment, and Sea of Thieves. And I think that is true, and I think that is what the 4 games are. And I don't think anyone's going to be really shocked by that, or, whoa, this is a big shift, or anything like that, you know? So 2 smaller things that was mentioned throughout this show. One was Diablo 4 is coming to Game Pass March 21st, I think is the date. And then, what is it? Oh, there is going to be new hardware announced this holiday. So, that's, a new handheld? Or, I would say, either cloud-based system Or third option, maybe like, hey, here's a Series X, but digital only. Instead of it being the power of the Series S, it's going to be the Series X, let's say $100 cheaper, and it doesn't have a drive. More like PS5 to PS5 digital kind of thing. So I'm thinking those are like the three scenarios there of what it could be. I'm hoping for an Xbox handheld. That would be super sick. Even though I have a Steam Deck, native Game Pass support would be really nice. So I would want that. Now, the fact that Xbox is letting this build up to such a thing for only such an announcement, yet again, they just continue to fumble the ball on how they just handle things. I don't think it should have led to such a thing. If it was this small of something, just reply to the rumors in a blog post like a week ago. You know, maybe even sooner than that when all things were starting. Like, hey, it's just a handful of games going to other platforms. No more to talk about this, right? And then when it comes to saying a random thing like, oh, we got new hardware later this holiday season, or, oh, Diablo 4. Again, those are things you can just sort of announce on your own later on in the year. To build it up as this business event to talk about the future of the platform, only for it to be this. Don't do that. You got everybody speculating the worst. Now, obviously, the internet is going to go way further than you could ever imagine in speculation and rumors and even spouting them as facts. Again, Xbox is not leaving the console market. They are purposely saying throughout the podcast that their hardware is what's going to be the focal point of games being made for that. And then because of that console target, they can then put things into cloud, put things over to PC, whatever. But the best place to play and where the energy is still in terms of Xbox wanting the target to be the console and then spreading from there. They are saying that. So no, they're not stopping making consoles. But they're also not putting Game Pass on other platforms either. So I was right and I was wrong in that regard. And, there's really not much else to say. Anything more saying after this is just more of prolonging and repeating the same things. Again, the 4 games, Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, Sea of Thieves, those aren't confirmed. But that is what Tom Warren is saying, and he's a pretty reputable, let's say, leaker, or, hey, I've heard of these things from multiple sources. That's what it seems to be, a reliable enough source. Even if it's, if it ends up being a different game of one of those 4, I would still count on that over anything else happening. So you're not losing your game preservation. You're not losing your libraries. None of that is taking place. The speculation just went so far and wide on all of this. But that's all that really happened. I've been really hyped on Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I guess we can go into that just because of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth happening. I was thinking, maybe we don't wait for Rudy for this conversation, because I saw a post that he made on, complaining about the controls of like, hey, Final Fantasy 16 felt a lot better in terms of its controls in this game, and it's kind of a bummer that this doesn't feel more like that. So the fact that he's making a post like that, at least the core, what he would want to vocalize out isn't, oh my god, this is the most incredible experience ever, and I'm freaking out, and wow, this is so mind-blowingly great, right? Even if that is a number 2, the thing is, with me, it is my number 1. So I figured we could talk on this for a bit, and then just kind of be done with the episode, because, again, I don't want to keep going on about the Xbox stuff. We know. I continue to think it was very lame the way they handled it. So, with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, man, yes, there's so many things to say, but let's start here where I'm a little weirded out. So at the end of Remake, we're like, ooh, we're getting all new material from this place going forward. And where Rebirth starts is exactly in the original game how things started, because when they leave Midgard, they go to Calm. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to spoil anything, okay? I'm down. I'm not even going to spoil the demo outside of just what it's based around when it starts. I'm not going to spoil the original game either, all of that. But one hard thing I must say, I completely disagree with anyone saying that you can play Rebirth without playing the original. You probably could have got away. I wouldn't have, but you probably could have got away playing Remake without playing the original. But it is far more important that you play the original game before you play Rebirth. It's super pivotal, because at the end of at the end of Remake, made it very clear that it's not just a remake, right? And I won't go any further, but just believe me. And if you don't believe me, I guess you're just going to have to spoil yourself on some stuff to find out that, yes, you need to play the original before you play Remake. Or don't believe, and then you're going to get spoiled on the original game, only to find out that you have to play it anyway to keep going forward. Unless you really just don't care that much and you just so badly want to play it. And if you get spoiled, so what, and then keep going, then sure. The game is going to be way less of an experience if you don't play the original game, because it is going to be referencing it constantly. I guess without spoiling it, let's use a different word that wouldn't spoil it. I wouldn't use this word unless you knew, but if you don't, it's its own thing. I'll leave it there. It really is its own thing and is not retelling of the original. Okay? Now, I would use a different word, very different word, if and I could say it in one word, let's say that. But it would spoil things. So. Anyway, okay. But this demo dropped, and yes, you start off in Calm, and it is exactly how the original game, to where once you get into there, it's Cloud telling the story of who even really Sephiroth is and how he's in Soldier and all of that. So they leave Midgard, and he is just basically like telling them a story. And in the original game, you get to play through a flashback of Cloud and Soldier with Sephiroth. And in this demo, you get to play as Cloud and Sephiroth in it. And Sephiroth is exactly how you would want him to be, controlling, super elegant and fast and swift, but very powerful, just smooth, So they nailed that. And just like in Remake, they continue to nail the characters so well, and that's what makes this so good. The flashback is them being younger. Cloud left. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything, calm down. But Cloud left his home village to go join Soldier, is like the story, right? He's a young kid, goes to be a teenager, late teens, he joins Soldier, and then comes back after a few years. Soldier is basically the military for Shinra. Cloud goes back to his home village because of a specific mission with Soldier, and where he's also in this mission with Sephiroth. There's a lot more details I can get into, but I'm purposely not saying them due to spoilers. And I really think you should play the original game, but as of right now, this is all safe stuff. But so that's the demo. The demo is the flashback whenever they go to Nibelheim, which again is Cloud's hometown. It's really cool. You get moments to where like you get to see your original house, you get to talk with Cloud's mom, you get to explore the town. In Remake, you got to see a bit of it in flashbacks where like you're talking with Tifa on the water tower, stuff like that. But it's really, really cool when you play the original game and you get to see the same areas, And so the same with Remake, we got to like be like wow over Midgard, right? It's really cool now being wowed over the first village and then wowed over Nibelheim, stuff like that. So honestly, out of the entire game of Final Fantasy VII, let's say if you were to pick the top 3 biggest moments, one of those 3 would be this scene that you get to play through the demo. So you get a really important, really cool moment, and I would say it's safe to play the demo. So you should play it, right? And if you're not wowed over this demo and you're kind of iffy on if you should play it or not, then I feel, you know what you're getting then. Because yes, the game is going to tell way cool, more story and all of that, but this is a great slice from the game to get you to know if you would like it or not. So I think it's a great test bed. And if you like this, go play the OG. Please do not continue. You're going to really ruin it for yourself on how awesome of a game experience you could have otherwise. I feel very strongly on that. But yeah, Sephiroth feels great. The combat is so much more improved than in the original. They have dual text now, which did get introduced with the DLC, but is now in this game and even more elaborate than it was in that DLC. And then the air combat is so much better than in the original game. You can juggle a lot easier, a lot cooler. There's so many more moves based around them being in the air. So that's neat. Game looks better because it's actually built for PS5. So that's kind of obvious. Now, in this demo, you're playing an older build from back in September. And maybe in the final release, it'll be a lot better in this. But even though we got a solid frame rate of 60, as compared to, let's say, 16, the frame rate would drop a lot. But with 16, frame rate would drop a lot and the resolution would drop a lot. Now, the frame rate stayed solid here, but the resolution definitely dropped. I wouldn't say in combat so much, because most of the times in combat, it wasn't too open of an area in this demo. But the very moment you're walking through any bigger area and there's, maybe a bigger draw distance it needs to pull from, you're going to notice a hit in resolution. But it could just be because of it being an older build, and maybe they got the resolution to not have to dip so bad in the actual release. And, I don't know. When I say bad, I don't really care. It's still great. It still looks amazing, but it's noticeable. At least for me. Maybe others won't notice it. But it's one of those things I still feel it's hey, I'm being nitpicky here, but it's still good. In no way would be... I wouldn't even know if this was how it was when it eventually released and everything was perfect about this game and this was the only flaw I could think of. I don't even think it'd be a flaw to where instead of this game being a 10, it's a 9.9 because of the resolution drop. I don't even think it's worth dropping a 0.1 on a score. Maybe if I was doing a 9.99, okay, maybe then, because it's such a tiny problem. But I just figured I'd mention it. Now, if frame rate drops, I feel that's a bigger issue. But we've went over that many times. You can play in 4K 30 and the resolution not drop as bad. And so any 30 FPS player out there, you're solid, I guess. Anyway, you just get to play through one of the coolest parts of Final Fantasy VII with this flashback. The most epic scene, probably in Final Fantasy VII as a whole also takes place in this, of one screen grab you could pull. And if you were to... Most people have seen this, even if they've never even played anything Final Fantasy VII related. So it happens up in here. And man, it was just so neat being able to see the moments of them climbing the mountain, going to the reactor, the village bits, the Sephiroth, actually understanding just how great of a hero he originally was. If you play side content like Crisis Core, you get a bit of it, but it's never been portrayed this well, just because we're now in 2024 and we're using PS5, you know what I mean? So it's not going to be as greatly told as an old PSP game, you know what I mean? But man, getting to fully get a grasp of Sephiroth from being this hero that people genuinely liked, and as you are playing the game, you understand, oh, he actually is a great guy. And then you just get to see how things turn here. And I'm not going to say any more there, but they nailed it. They crushed it. I'm so happy we're just in a state to where it's like, I was thinking best case scenario, hey, it's a good game. You know, I just wasn't expecting to be this good. I mean, I was in love with the remake, right? And somehow we still didn't know, you know, it's still just Midgard. And we still didn't get to see too much. Because again, Midgard in the original game is about 10 hours. This game, I was going to say dual layered, but we got 2 Blu-ray discs. Probably more than dual layered, because I think single layer Blu-ray is like 25 gig. If you dual layer, it's 50 gig. So at a minimum, it's 100 gig because dual layer between the two. But apparently, you can add as many layers as you want on a Blu-ray. So you could technically have 250 between the 2 discs. You could have more than that even. So it then makes me wonder, is all the data then going to be on the disc because it is two Blu-ray discs? Does that mean like we don't have to install it on the system? I'm thinking all this because I'm usually digital. I mean, I'm probably 90% digital, maybe even higher than that, maybe 95, you know what I mean? Outside of like collecting for old systems. And Switch is the exception. I do have great Switch physical library, but I still have far more digital. PlayStation, I think I have 2 PlayStation 5 physical games, only because they were like gifts. But I have to buy this physical. It's just too important. And I don't know if something that near and dear to me, I just would like to have on my shelf. Anyway, so it makes me wonder, you know, like, am I going to have to install it? If so, so be it, whatever. One last thing on that I'm wondering is, does the game launch at midnight? Does it launch at like 9 p.m. the previous day? Do I buy digital and also buy physical and then just keep the physical sealed? That's weirdly what I did with Tears of the Kingdom, just because, again, that it's just too near and dear to me. So later on down the road, I just bought a physical copy, even though I should have bought physical from the start, but I couldn't help myself and wanted to play at midnight and all that mess. I think I went to a store and they didn't even have any copies or something. Anyway, so Final Fantasy VII Remake, you know, I wonder if it's like, no, or Rebirth, you know what I mean? Makes me wonder when I can play it. Do I buy 2 copies? All that mess. Maybe I just wait till midnight and it drops and I still just pick up at Walmart. The problem is, well, Walmart's not open at midnight anymore. They're not 24/7 anymore, which is insane to me. So, yeah, I really don't know there. Regardless, play the demo. I think it's fantastic. So good. All the moments of like the manor in Nibelheim. There's so many memorable bits. It's so awesome. It's better done here than in anything prior. I really like that there is like a OVA of, I think it's Final Fantasy VII Lost Order, I want to say is what it's called. And it goes over this bit as well. And it's so good, so good. Really press people to watch that. And that's basically what this demo is. But where this demo ends isn't, the OVA goes a little further than that. And just know where this demo ends isn't where the flashback ends. The flashback still goes a little ways past this, but not too far. Anyway, I absolutely loved it. I really stress everyone to play it. And I'm more excited than ever now. They're dropping some more content into the demo to where you get to play in a more open area and doing like where you can really show off like the open world and combat in the open world and all of that. And apparently that's going to be a way newer build than what this original part is pulled from. So I guess we'll be able to judge if they improved on it or not with this new part in terms of resolution dropping. But yeah, I'm stoked. I mean, I'm always like holding back a bit because I'm well aware that I'm just a Final Fantasy VII fanboy because it's my favorite game of all time, blah, blah, blah. But with anything, you know, like, I think I can be cynical if I need to be, and I can mention a negative here or there. But I'm very confident that if people play this, they would see greatness. And you would definitely want them to keep playing more. And you'd have to just really not be into the genre whatsoever. Oh, one last thing about the controls. Where Rudy was like, hey, I just wish the controls were like 16, all that. I did want to comment on that. And, you know, I'll mention it to him in the next show as well, see what he says back. But the controls in this game are built like they're built in Kingdom Hearts and like they are in Remake. I mean, the combat's better in this than even in the Remake. And it's even a little better in its menu moving around, but in this one. But no, it's not going to control like an action game. I mean, it's an action RPG way more than it was in the past, where it's just straight menu, of course. When you hit triangle, you shift into a new mode, and then that triangle, you know, then when you attack after hitting triangle, it does way slower, stronger attacks, you know. Then when you hit triangle, it switches back to the quicker. But you're attacking with square, you know what I mean? And then X is what you're using to select things. So as you're going through like the menus of like different spells, different items, different limit breaks, dual techs. I forget what they call them in this game, so I'm going to keep calling it dual techs from Chrono Trigger. But all of that you're going to be moving through with the D-pad, selecting with X kind of thing. So no, it's not like you're playing an action game like Devil May Cry or a Souls game or 16 or anything like that. It is still very much moving through menus and switching characters and all that stuff. So I don't want the controls to feel like 16. It would fundamentally change all of that stuff, and I like selecting stuff RPG style. I prefer this way to playing Devil May Cry or 16. I don't want it to feel that way. I don't want it to play that way. I definitely do want to be able to like select my moves and all of that instead of mapping them to buttons and then not having as many of options. The whole point of why there's a menu, the same with Kingdom Hearts. Like, you know how many different spells types there are? I don't want to sit there and like have to go into menus and change this button. I can only equip 3 or 4 spells at a time because you only have so many buttons to work with. You know, no. I want to be able to select any move at any time. So, and no, I definitely do not want the controls to be different, and I don't want it to play different. Now, I mean, for that reason, I genuinely like, as I'm selecting moves, it's like pausing. It's not like it's technically running just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, super, super slow motion forward a little. You know what I mean? But yes, you're able to like sit there, think about things, strategize. That's an RPG, you know what I mean? Or turn-based RPG. You know, I know there's RPGs that are not like that, but I don't want it to be action full on. I love the combat medium ground here with Remake, and I think it's even better in Rebirth. And this is my favorite combat system in JRPG history, in my opinion. I really think that. So really, really happy with it. Do not want it changed. Please don't change it. Don't listen to Rudy on that one. Because Square Enix is definitely listening to our podcast right now. But yeah, that'll do it. 30 minutes, super short, I know. But the Xbox I thought would be a lot bigger ordeal than here's 4 games coming to other platforms. We're not even going to tell you what they are. And, we may release other games in the future on other platforms like we've done in the past. And, hey, we have a new hardware announcement at the end of the year. We're not going away from hardware. And Diablo 4 coming to Game Pass. There you go. Till next week. I'll see you guys.